It is time.
Shark's in order. Our shark.
There's a Sharknado coming.
Dragon sharks?
Are those sharks with laser beams attached to their heads?
Welcome to the
Sharks.
During the Cold War, there were a lot of things America triumphed over the Soviet Union in. The race to the moon, hockey. But the Soviets did win in one aspect. In 1977, America tried desperately to conjure J.R. Tolkien's masterpiece with their 1977 animated classic. But America expected that the race was over. They didn't expect that the Soviets would actually beat us to the real-time version of The Hobbit first. That's what this special is about. The USSR Hobbit film. Hey, what's going on, YouTube? It's your host, Rob, with Steve from the Real Sharks podcast, and we're going to do another Let's Talk About. And today, comrades, you better get your Soviet flags out because we're going to be talking about the J.R. Tolkien's Hobbit film from 1985. That's right, 1985. You must be saying, wait, guys, I know of a Hobbit film, but wasn't it Peter Jackson's? Yes, there is a Peter Jackson one, and there is also a Soviet Russian Hobbit film as well. And it is ridiculous. You can find it for free on YouTube. We'll put it in the description below. But, my God, Steve, I watched this, and I gotta tell you, it was...
amazing.
It was interesting. Like, as bad as it was, in some parts it made sense.
Really?
You didn't think so?
I thought it made sense for what they were going for. Obviously, we know the source material, but if this was your first time watching,
do you, comrade? Because in Soviet Russia, material reads you. But for
apparently it does.
For real though, they actually the Hobbit when it came out to Russia, it was with totally different translation and totally different illustrations, apparently. Yeah, so it was a lot different than the American version of The Hobbit.
Wow.
So you start the film off essentially with this narrator guy who he's supposed to be J.R. Tolkien, but he looks like Winston Churchill, like just some British guy. He just looks like some British guy here to tell you the story. Like, but in Russian, like, let me sit down and tell you with my umbrella. And it's not even raining inside. He has an umbrella inside too. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but he has
yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know if it's the director of the film, Vladimir Latskovsky. I'm butchering that guy's name, but that guy, I think that might have been him. He was like kind of narrating the thing, right?
Yes.
Throughout the whole movie. So it's really weird. They keep cutting back to this guy, so it was really weird.
Yeah, he's known as the Professor. Zinovoy Gurdet was his name, I believe it was, and you also had Mykola Dinalovov as Bilbo Baggins. And let me tell you, there's just something about this guy as Bilbo Baggins I absolutely hate. I don't know why, but I love The Hobbit. The Hobbit is one of my favorite books of all time. But there's essentially, an essence of to come off humble and come off, maybe a little unwitty at times as being Bilbo. But this guy just comes off as like this dude who's like, yes, I'm the star of this freaking movie. And it's like he doesn't try unless lines are like fed to him. You know what I mean? He just
Yeah.
comes off. I don't know, his attitude of this, the way he carries himself as Bilbo drives me nuts in this movie. And yes, we sat
Yeah.
down and watched it all. But okay,
Mhm.
so first off, I love the way they have Gandalf too. Gandalf
Best part of
he,
film.
he has like this long beard, and then he has all this glitter hair. He has glitter in his hair,
Glitter.
which is amazing.
Yeah. First of all, Rob, like you got to talk about he has glitter in his hair, right? So it's played by a person who's got like a long nose that has like makeup on it. He has glitter on his face, glitter in his beard. He has a fro. He has like sort of a fro
Yes,
going
fro.
on that also has glitter in it. Like looking
Ivan
at
Krasko
dumbfounded.
was Gandalf. And just the way the dialogue is delivered in this too, he's like, "I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me." And we've talked about this too, Steve, and the level of epicness that is depicted in The Hobbit, because we've talked about how the 1970s one is just there's just something to the dialogue, you know, when he's like, "Enough."
I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me.
It's just more epic.
Yeah.
It's more like, and then and then the Peter Jackson one, he's like, "I'm Gandalf. Gandalf means me," and it's like in this one too, he's like, "Gandalf means me." It's like, God. He's Gandalf, man. Let him announce himself.
Let him announce himself.
He's
Not
a
just come off
wizard.
like, "Oh, me, I'm Gandalf, and Gandalf is me." It was really weird. And then like Bilbo's reaction to everything is like,
"Who?"
I understand. Yeah, what? Huh? It's like a cartoon Scooby Doo. He's
That's what
making all
drives me
these sounds.
crazy. He drives me crazy with it. It's just like, "Woo?" But
Literally, dude.
we're already, like I said, we're still in the beginning of this film, and we haven't even gotten to it. But essentially, though, the dialogue for the most part is from The Hobbit. For the most part, it is. I was actually very, very impressed for the first I want to say like good 30 minutes, because most of the dialogue is really driven off the book. There are very few exceptions, and we'll get to that. But one of my favorite parts is, like, first of all, his Hobbit home. They show his Hobbit home in the background. It's obviously a painting or backdrop
A
of
green screen.
yeah.
It was a green screen. Terrible.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. But once they get into his Hobbit home, it's a black stage. Like there's no
Like
concerted
play.
there's no concerted effort anymore. So he's in this black stage, right? And then all of a sudden Thorne and company come to meet him. And they essentially actually do it just like how Peter Jackson did it, where they, kind of arrive, one at a time, unlike the 1970s version where they all kind of come at once. In this one, they actually were pretty accurate. They walk in. He's like, "Oh, hey, I'll just wait." He's like, "Would you like some, tea?" He's like, "No, plum pie would be good." And they start doing the whole, crack the plates. That's what Bilbo
Yeah.
begs. But it's like a weird, like almost like conga line.
First off, like the conga line thing is not the funniest point. Each song, which we will go over, is like the songs you know and love, the crack the pots and break the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates, but with like a Russian spin to it. Like each thing gets even more Russian as each song happens within this film. And like Rob was saying, they're conga lining the dwarves.
It's jumping up and down.
They're jumping up and down.
And you have this Bilbo guy who I still want to punch in the face, just kind of run around doing this. Just like, "Oh, I'm Bilbo Baggins," and the way he says it, "Oh, I need no Bilbo Baggins."
Yeah,
Sorry,
definitely.
it's just I'm not making fun of Russian. I'm just saying it sounds really, really funny. But the dwarves' costumes themselves are hilarious, because Bilbo essentially looks just like a Russian guy with a scarf.
Yeah,
And the
with a beanie on his head. I'm like,
yes.
All right.
And the dwarves look like just long hair, long curly hair, long curly beard, men in cloaks, different cloaks, basically. And they actually kept the names, and they kept the way that some of them looked. Like, there's, like, they have glasses, too, like Keely Feely, Ori, Nori. I mean, they did it pretty well. I was impressed. And I guess the way we're kind of getting at this is one of the best examples of a movie where the director had the great source material, but not great cinematography skills, and the translation and execution is just terrible. And that's being polite.
Yeah, definitely.
That's being polite.
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and skip forward a little bit here to some funniness here. So let's see. That their whole trip essentially, like when they're going through the mountains and everything, I love too. It's just a set with mist, and they're basically all fighting over to get around this one branch in this whole movie. And it's just like, oh god, this is and the narrator's narrating, and it's like, yes, this is the epic journey. Going through branches steadily. It's really, really, really funny. But one of the parts where I was like I said, it's probably about a minute 24:36. It's a minute 24:36 is where the movie actually breaks kayfabe, so to say. And that's where they're having this dialogue about, he just says, yeah, he'll kick Philly like a football. He literally says, I will kick him. He will kick him like a football. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I wonder if that was improvised and they were like, maybe people won't notice. Or for a second, I ran through my books into every Hobbit book I had, and I was like, is there a place in Middle Earth where the gridiron was played? Is there an elves football team? What about the dwarves? Do they have a football team?
Oh my gosh. Or the
Apparently they do.
Apparently in Soviet.
Oh, the orcs were great because they were just
They were just guys.
They were just guys. Maybe they were meant to be American.
You think so? That would have been funny because, as everybody's sleeping and Bilbo kind of looks up and you see like a stage right type of effect where a rock kind of lifts and then some dude just appears with some smog. I'm like, who's this guy? And I'm like, what is going on? Oh, wait, are they supposed to be the goblins?
Yes, and then when he says, oh, great and magnificent one, I was like, oh my god, that's the Goblin King. I mean, even Martini from your favorite film, Your Highness, looked better than that guy. I would have believed that guy was more of an orc than that dude.
Oh my gosh, yes, definitely. Definitely. And we get another dance cue scene with the goblins dancing in their lair.
Yes.
Very weirdly.
It's like you can tell there's a stage and they just kind of like cut it into a prompt of a cave. But they don't even know what they look like they're doing. They're like doing these weird turns with arms. It looks ridiculous. And Bilbo's watching them, and I don't know if it was the movie or what, but it starts to like get really shaky and crazy, and it's just like, oh my god, what is going on? But
Right.
you know what I noticed though, Steve? What was really interesting, and maybe we should have brought this up in the beginning. Did you notice throughout this whole film there was not anything, and this is what made it even better, is there's not a lot of dialogue or suggestion, and I'm being dead serious, over anything more powerful than Mother Russia. Or something the Soviets can't take out. I'm not joking. They never say like Smaug is like the great and powerful, he is like, anything that can conquer man. They never talk about anything that can basically take out the world, like they kind of essentially, like they, talk about in The Hobbit, like, oh, the One Ring, Smaug can destroy the world, all these different aspects that can control the world and destroy the world. None of that's in there. A lot of that dialogue is left out as if to say, like, the Soviets, we could come in and take over Middle Earth. I'm being dead serious.
Yeah,
because it's almost like the Godzilla, the American Godzilla, where essentially the movie was just about America being able to kick Godzilla's ass. That's essentially what it was. In this movie, seems like they're just really trying to hold back from saying like, yeah, there is this fantasy, but it's not stronger than the Soviet Union and Mother Russia.
Right, this mythological place. It has nothing to motherland. It's like, of course it does it.
It's a
Right.
farce, and I'm not being stupid, my audience. I'm being serious. It really kind of seems like it's almost propaganda. It's like they're trying to make the lore less powerful than realism, if that makes sense.
Kind of why they had Bilbo Baggins, the actor, kind of be the way, because he kind of just is just a Russian guy being Russian, and we kind of see that
Yes,
where
thank
he is
you.
when he gets into the cave of gloom with Gollum, and we see Gollum how he looks, Rob, which was hilarious. How did Gollum look? How did
He
you?
looked like a guy
It is
that
just
had trash bags like just piled all over him. He looked like
yeah,
a bum. He looked like a bum.
he
Maybe that
did.
was the
The
whole
big
thing.
shower cap on his head.
Yes. But first, I want to really emphasize one part of the movie that I have to give into the special effects. That part when they do Glamdrim, the faux hammer, and that sword goes whoop, and stabs him. Amazing.
Amazing, right? That was
Amazing.
great.
Amazing.
Definitely.
But yeah, but they did do another part they did have in the story, and might I add, like this whole part in the story, they're still running dialogue out of the book. They're still
Oh,
doing dialogue, and they do the riddles. Gollum and him have a riddle, but it's almost essentially like the guy talking to his own, like a self, because they have no emotion, they have no anything, and even when he finds the ring, he's like, "Oh, ring! Oh, I'll save this for later."
definitely,
Nothing.
like no emotion. He's just like, okay, here's the line. I'm reading it. Like Gollum's supposed to scare him, and Bilbo's sitting there
Yeah.
unfazed, like, all right, like, why are you touching me? And this is like weird.
Not to mention not to mention Gollum is literally acting like a bum, just kicking up his legs in the air and just like, "Yeah," talking about his fish and everything like that. Just weird. But yeah, a
Did
guy
you
with a
did you mention his creature from the Black Lagoon ears that he had on himself? Yeah, like freaking fish ears.
and I'm not trying to be mean to it, really kind of looked like those depictions, not being racist at all, but it looked like depictions of the Jews that they had, like Russian propaganda have. With That's kind of what Gollum essentially kind of looks like, not even being a joke.
Yeah,
That might have
it,
been like a connection there
yeah.
because of the
And I know you're gonna say, "Wow, why would you guys say that? It's so horrible." Not as horrible as the next scene where we get the giant tarantula scene, or Party City tarantula scene.
Oh my God, Steve. This was like, first of all, it seemed like something they threw together at the last minute. And they're not even toy spiders, they're the shadows of toy spiders.
It's some dude's hand, be like trying to be a spider and like a shadow. So bad, Rob.
And they are hanging from netting or something that looks like webbing in a prop studio. And the spiders
Right.
come up to them and they're like, "Oh my God. Oh my God." But I mean, it I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that scene, and that's it's really. And then when Bilbo comes too, which is ridiculous, he acts like a Russian guy being happy, like, "Oh, take this," and like, like, "You can't catch me," blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I,
Right. What?
it's funny, and if you're still with us after this point in this movie,
Right.
I applaud you
God bless
because
you.
it was hard. I had to sit. This movie took 2 sittings for me. Oh, but I love the toy spiders right now. He's just standing there dancing. He's behind the web, throwing sticks at them. This is the part in like the original movies where they're like, "We're no match for Sting," and it's all epic and stuff like Sting, Sting. No, you get this Russian guy just like, "Oh, you can't catch me."
You go hee haw hee haw, and then the spiders don't say anything because they're not real, and they kind of just go up.
Here's the other thing too. Where is any mention of the ring? The ring is non-existent in this one.
Non-existent. Yes.
I mean, he does
Definitely.
find the ring, but it doesn't
He puts
play
it
any
on,
major role once. Well, I
and that
think
was
twice,
it.
a
I
couple
think he
times.
does it with Smog, I believe. But yeah, he doesn't really. I don't think they had the budget, Rob, to be doing those type of effects, as we can see.
Well, they had a big budget to at least make a fake cardboard town for the people of Dale, because that
Yeah,
whole
right.
next dance sequence and songs that they had is weird. This whole like, some people have lanterns, some people don't, and then all of a sudden, and what they did is they basically used, they cropped the dwarves down to be like the size of children. They're not like when they say dwarves, they mean like up to a man's waist. They don't mean up to a man's knees.
I mean, like they made normal sized people gigantic people. Because the thing about it is, I don't think they realized the continuity. Bilbo and Gandalf were standing like toe to toe, eye to eye, right? So like the whole movie. So does that mean Gandalf is also a dwarf? Because when that happens, they're all tiny. I'm like, what is going on here?
I love it because what they did essentially too is they just basically filmed one scene and had the dwarf actors stand in front of a bigger screen and film it, and basically they're just acting to the screen, and they're just basically doing reactions with no reactions, and it's great because they do the original line like, oh, I am Thorin, original king of the mountain, I have returned, but then it gets to the climax, and I might have to say, I think the reason this movie, Steve, wasn't that good, I'm going to be completely honest with you, because at this point I was loving it. But I really sat there and I said to myself, it would be better if it was 3 movies.
Oh, really?
That's what would make this movie completely better, is if they just split it into 3.
Right when they got the Smog cut it.
Yep.
To be continued.
Now, they should have cut it when they got to Smog, because this is the best part. And it's playing along to our audience right there at the bottom of the screen there. But as you can tell, Bilbo, who's supposed to be burgling something, goes in there like he's gonna mine something essentially, and meets Smog, who I guess you could say is in literal scale that J.R. Tolkien did, because he is really fucking tiny. And it's now I'm gonna be devil's advocate for the Russians here. They did get the scale somewhat right, because Smog has been dramatized over the years to be bigger, essentially. But he was never supposed to be a rubber puppet in a man's hand.
Oh, okay, yeah. I am seriously debating whether or not since this is like my second time watching this film, I saw this scene. I don't know if I hate this scene a lot or if I love
Commend it.
Like Rob, like somehow you have to commend the effort of what they did, because they went with Smog, and like you said, like they had some breathing effects, as you guys could see with us. There's some stuff coming out of his nose, but oh my God, it's so bad. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's better than The Room. I'm gonna just say that right now, guys. It's better than The Room. It was amazing, and Bilbo's response to him is amazing. Yes. He just starts laughing in his face, as you see here. He doesn't get scared again. It's funny.
Yeah, it's great, but it's just a shame, Steve, because these guys had to do a good job on this film. Otherwise, they'd get sent to the gulag. Which is going to be our next video of Where Are They Now? The Hobbit, a 1985 Russian cast. All in the gulag.
Because it's an overtop the 1977 animated film.
That's why they were there. Yep. But this puppet action, I mean, my God, the Muppets would be in envy of it, let me just tell you. And Bilbo's acting and his pinching of his nose and just being a basic Russian guy in a beanie cap, it just sells. It just really sells the whole thing. I mean, that's what sold me on this movie, is it being amazing to the point of where I think it needs to be 3 films. But just so you know, we're all being sarcastic.
Or are you? I'm kind of digging the 3 films idea.
But essentially, we get to the end where Smog dies, the Black Arrow scene, which is there with the dragon just like dying. But we get to the Battle of 5 Armies, which to be honest with you, was more accurate than the Peter Jackson one. Because essentially Bilbo just gets hit on the head and he just basically passes out, wakes up, and they're like, "Oh," he's like, "What happened, everybody?" He's like, "Oh, we won," which is
Yeah.
it. Then Thorin is dying, and it's probably one of the most awkward scenes you've seen between two Russian guys ever. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
but overall though, you have to applaud the effort of a movie like this, Steve. You really do. You have to applaud it because,
They did something that most of us couldn't do, on whatever budget they had for this film.
which
It was
is great.
insanely. It was like you said, Rob. It really was. If we could make all the jokes we want to, even you audience, you're seeing it with us.
As
It,
Bilbo
it
saunters off like that.
just saunters. It was so. I think, like you said, I think he's probably the worst of the film because we're taking it from his perspective. So people are mad about the Battle of the Five Armies. It's actually the greatest part of this film that they did because you do kind of see like this thing where they had like a filter on the camera, so you see some people like fighting
Yeah.
and they're panning over. But then, yeah, like if you're following the unexpected journey of Bilbo, he never saw the battle happen because he was knocked out. So if he came through, then he'd be like, "Oh, what happened?" He's seeing Thorin dead and dying. That's more accurate than all the other stuff that had happened in the Peter Jackson film.
But not the
You
football.
know, not the I don't think about the football or the flying paper dragon that got shot down or Bilbo with
Are you
glitter in his
sure?
hair.
Could have swore that was somewhere.
Yeah, I think
I'm pretty sure Gandalf was putting glitter in his hair. That's where he was the whole time. When they were like,
yeah,
where's Gandalf? He comes and goes as he please." The real line actually was, "Where's Gandalf? That wizard is always making up his makeup."
yeah. Where's Gandalf? Gandalf is going between discos. That's what's happening right now before this film.
Also, did you notice the room the narrator's in is completely empty with other chairs? It's like they just like we're like, "Here, this is the warehouse in which you're gonna do this in. We just gonna put these chairs in the background. Don't worry about it. You have an
Yeah,
umbrella. You have an umbrella and a bald cap, and a ball hat, a bowler
full
hat."
hat, sitting near here he is. You have nothing, no like drink or something, and he's like, "Okay, what am I supposed to do? Talk about the film now. Do it, okay?" And
Tell
if
the
he's just
story.
like, "All right, yeah, this is The Hobbit, I guess.
Yeah,
There you go."
he's supposed to be J.R. Tolkien, but
All right.
bad execution. But overall, though, I think it was really funny, this film, and we're at the credits and everything. I think this movie is really funny because it was kind of this whole like what I thought about immediately when you told me about this movie, Steve, was this idea of them coming out with the 1970s Hobbit film, and then it got over to Russia when some Russian guy saw it, and he was like, "Oh hell no! The Americans want to make a Hobbit cartoon. We're gonna do the live version. We'll do the live version." That's what it just seems like. It just seems like they're really, really, ambitious attempt to beat America to the
Yeah.
Hobbit. Like they tried to the moon. They're like, "We'll beat them to the Hobbit at least." So
And
this was the
it's
Hobbit
funny that you
race.
say that. The Hobbit race. Oh my God, the unforgotten race from the Cold War.
This is
It
the
kind of is.
Yes, it is.
Kind of is. I mean, for people to make fun of this, you got to think about it. Like Robin said, this came out in 1985 at the pit of the Soviet Union.
You can even see
So
the Soviet flag, the Soviet logo on the top of the credits here.
I'm surprised they didn't have the Soviet Union theme running as the credit theme song
What do
or
you think
something.
the intro to this show is going to be?
Yeah, I in this film, I had to show this. This had to be on the show once for once, and I'm glad that you guys saw this with us because this had to be seen. If you guys are true
Yeah.
fans, Middle Earth and The Hobbit, you missed out on the true gem, the true legend that Peter Jackson left behind.
Yes,
Which
one of the
got-
true unforgotten Cold War races right here. I mean, this might have been bigger than the moon. And the Soviets beat us there. Okay. I mean, they beat us to the Hobbit. Now, I'm sure we can sit here and debate all day whether it's true, whether those were real dwarfs in there or not. But the point I'm trying to make is they beat us.
Hey, it is what it is. Is this movie the actual Gollum of the entire films that have happened, including the animated series that have happened?
No, it is actually, and I'm going to be completely, honest. Put on my serious critic face. No, it is not the worst because, like I said, it actually does employ some aspects of the book in it, because the dialogue is pretty spot on for some parts of the movie. Some are not. For the most part, it is pretty true to the book. I've seen worse. I think Peter Jackson's version. We've done an episode. It's on the Chum Bucket. Make sure you check it out. It's the Chum Bucket Peter Jackson Hobbit movie. We discuss every single flaw in the Hobbit film in that one, because at least they weren't like, well, we know we're gonna make another one of these, so we're just gonna split it into 3 movies, or we're just gonna make it more like this upcoming series that we already knew about. Thank God they didn't do that. Thank God they didn't come out with Lord of the Rings first, and they were like, oh, we're gonna try and incorporate the Hobbit to make it Lord of the Rings, when it already is Lord of the Rings.
Definitely, I agree.
So I enjoyed it in a really funny way. I did enjoy it. I thought it was funny. I think it's clever.
You know what's funny about this, that you say that it's funny though? Comparing it to the 3 Hobbit films that we have this one, we have the Peter Jackson film, and we have the 1977 animated film.
Plus a film.
Each one of those, plus that one. And each one of those films, I laugh at each of those Hobbit films for different reasons.
Yeah.
Which is why I agree with Rob in this instance, that this is not the worst of the series that we have had, of the franchise.
No,
it does do stuff that is
worse. Like another cartoon. There's a few cartoon versions that are worse.
Way terrible.
Yeah.
So before you kind of go and judge this film, they did try, and they did do some stuff, like Rob was saying, that is accurate to the series and to the book. So, hey, budget aside, right, and acting aside, they did stuff that kind of
they tried it.
Yeah, they tried to do it. They could have gone crazy.
Yeah, they could have tried to make Superman and then turn into Edward Scissorhands, essentially, like history has shown before when it comes to movies. But yeah, comrades, that's going to be the 1985 USSR Hobbit film with your host, Steve and Rob. We hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you give a listen. Make sure you listen, like, and subscribe, and stay on this channel to find more of our material. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. So long, comrades, and remember, we watch you in Soviet Russia.